Ultra Squad, look, man, it's a lot of controversy going on with this BAFTA Awards, man. If you already know, I don't even got to explain to you, but I'm doing a video because of this. Everybody else doing a video, so why not I do a video? If you don't know, Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, who were a part of Sinners, two great actors, by the way, two great actors, were representing the first BAFTA Awards, I believe. And during their presentation, while they were speaking, there was a Tourette campaigner in the audience, John Davidson, who yelled out the N-word. Let's take a look real quick.
Good evening. Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
We're here to celebrate the artists who expand what's possible on screen.
What's so crazy about this? You know what's so crazy? Michael B. Jordan, he really was calm, cool, and collected. He kept his eye on everything. He didn't even move. Delroy, on the other hand, was like, he gave a look because he was shocked a little bit. You know, you could tell, like, he didn't expect him to say that. I'm pretty sure nobody did. Of course, nobody did, right? But the internet is like a 50-50 thing with this man. Of course, all the people who are a part of the left are, of course, not everybody. You can't speak for every single body a part of something, you know, because some people that might be a part of the left or might be Democrat might be like, he has Tourette's. It is what it is, you know. Of course, a lot of people from the right are speaking out on this, you know what I'm saying? Saying, bruh, you guys need to relax with your woke takes. The guy has Tourette's. I need to chill out. So we're finna take a look at a couple of clips on people's opinions on this real quick.
The man who called Michael B. Jordan the N-word today said this.
Sometimes my text, I'll shout the N-word, you know.
That can get you in trouble.
People misunderstand that and they see it as being racist. And that's one thing, I ain't racist. You
just can't control what's coming out of your...
can't control what is supposed to not be said.
It's very hard, because if you're standing out there and you shout out the N-word or the B-word, and someone's walking past, they're going to think you're just being rude or racist. Can it be triggered?
Triggers are a massive thing for Tourette's, being in a social space like this. Things like certain noises outside can trigger someone walking along the street that's maybe a bit overweight, and I'm like, you know, and it's like, I didn't want to say that because the last thing I want to do is offend and upset someone.
I always wonder if white people who had Tourette's said the N-word, and I guess I got my answer now. It might be a little different in John Davidson's case, because when I went to do a little bit of research, it said that only 10% of people who have Tourette's have involuntary Tourette's syndrome. I also read that it's not an inflection on how a person may speak on a daily, but honestly,
but what if he is a part of that 10%? Just to play devil's advocate, what if he is? You know what I'm saying? I'm playing middle ground here. If you watch my videos, and most of my videos on this channel at least, I say I'm playing the middle ground. We're going to get to what I think about it.
Probably not going to stop most of us from being offended, because why that word? Also, the clip that I played you guys earlier came from an interview 4 months prior from today. In the interview, he speaks about the last time him being at a movie theater was at the age.
So he's probably said the N-word multiple times.
He's ever watched at a cinema was E.T. because that's when his symptoms started showing up and he was way too embarrassed to keep going. So he talked about not being able to go to the movies with his friends. He just kind of stayed home because he didn't want to mess it up for everybody else. He also talked about having trouble with law enforcement because he would involuntarily call them pigs and they would detain him for it. Imagine thinking the worst thing that you can say at the time and can't even control yourself not to say it. That's crazy. Honestly, this is a really complicated issue. Why do I feel like somebody's gonna turn this into a skit one day? This low-key reminds me of the Sweet Anita situation. Y'all remember that one girl from the Streamer Awards? She also had Tourette's and she was letting it go on that stage. I'm not gonna lie, it was crazy. And I was in my mind like, I wonder if she gonna say the N-word. I was like, you gonna say it? You gonna say it? Anyways, how do you guys feel about this situation? Do y'all believe him?
Well, I'm saying a lot of people are not believing him. A lot of people are not believing that, you know what I'm saying? It's just like an accident, you know? See, look at the comments. He could have yelled sorry. So we're overlooking disabilities now? Got it. It's just funny how he didn't tick once in this interview. That's fair, but at the same time, ticks are not every day, all day, 24/7. You know what I'm saying? Give the man a break, cool, so he's capable of apologizing. Not buying it exactly why that word, right? So, before we continue, before it seems like I'm just showing all these different clips of this side thinking this and this side thinking that, let's look up what Tourette's actually is. Alright, so we look it up. It says neurodevelopment disorder characterized by involuntary, repetitive, and sudden motor and vocal tics, usually appearing between ages 5 and 10, affecting more boys than girls. It often peaks in early teens and may improve with age. While the exact cause is unknown, It involves genetic factors in brain neurotransmitters. Okay, motor tics, vocal tics. Okay. Progressions, causes and risk factors. Causes unknown. Okay. So those are the symptoms. You know, that's what it is. Can you control what you say during Tourette's? Let's see what they say. Can you control what you say during Tourette's? Searching. In general, no, you cannot control what you say during a vocal tic. Tourette syndrome is a neurological disorder where the brain sends involuntary signals that trigger sudden repetitive sounds or words. Here's a breakdown of how control works with the condition: involuntary nature, temporary suppression. Okay. Some people can briefly hold back or suppress a vocal tic, especially in public or a social setting. However, that requires immense concentration and often leads to a buildup of internal tension. Okay. Masking and redirection. Okay, therapy. Okay. Now let's look at what some people of color had to say about this, man. Jamie Foxx, he meant that ish. Out of all the words you could have said, Tourette's makes you say that. Melvin Gregg, content creator, you know what I'm saying, came around when King Batch, all them, you know, was going and doing their content. How many other times did he say it during the show? You know what I mean? The craziest thing about this is, if I was to share my thoughts of like how I'm feeling about it, say if this was a person of color, black person or whatever, they had Tourette's, because black people have Tourette's too. If they were saying something with white creators on stage, cracker, or just like the worst slur you could think of when you imagine white people, right? Every race has their own slur that they don't like to be called, right? Of course, for black people, no matter where you are, you don't want to be called the N-word. You know what I'm saying? Especially by a different race, right? So if it was a black person, because he was there, because he had a film about him, a biography, a biopic, whatever you call it, and they won an award. That person won an award that played him. If it was a black person and they yelled out cracker or something, you think the world would have went into a frenzy? I'm just being real. Some people might say, "Oh, you been a coon." Like, whatever. You can say whatever you want, bro. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, that's a real question. That's a real question, bro. You know what I'm saying? And let's say, like how Jamie Foxx and everybody else is saying, right? He meant that. Let's say it's a possibility, because anything's possible. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to hold that against nobody. I won't be surprised about nothing. You know what I'm saying? But if you know about Tourette's, you know about Tourette's. But let's say with Tourette's, because I thought about this. I was thinking about this before I looked it up. You know what I mean? What if people with Tourette's, they see somebody? Because it's like, these words are a part of your vocabulary. You know what I'm saying? You ain't just saying words that you don't know. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody screaming out onomatopoeia, quintessential, capriciously, ambivalent. Nobody's yelling out big words, because it might not be a part of your vocabulary. It's words that you already know about, right? And you might see somebody, like he probably saw them, and what if he had a thought? Nigger. You know what I'm saying? What if that is the case though? He just couldn't control what he was saying, but he was thinking it. That could be a possibility, but you know what I'm saying? But people will say, no, that's not a possibility, because that's not how Tourette's works and all that. But like, we don't know like every single thing about Tourette's, you know what I'm saying? Scientists or whoever, doctors could do all the research in the world, but they'll still only know a certain amount of information. Just like the ocean, you only know a certain amount about the ocean. Just like space, you only know a certain amount about space. All the scientists in the world, they don't know every single thing about space. You know a lot, but you don't know every single thing about it. So it's many possibilities that could be. I'm just trying to play the middle ground and say, like, what if? You know what I'm saying? This is just me throwing out ideas of, that's just me using the imagination. Just what if, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But my main thing is, this man does have a disorder, right? And I've heard some people with Tourette say some wild-ish. You know what I'm saying? I think the main thing that everybody should be focusing on, besides this man with Tourette's, right? The broadcast, BBC or whoever, this was allegedly broadcasted 2 or a couple hours ahead of time. There was a 30-second overlay. They could have edited this stuff out. They chose to edit out somebody saying free Palestine. And other people who was having political remarks and statements, right? But they chose to leave this in of this man with Tourette's saying the N-word. Why is that? I have a couple of ideas. One, the most simple one that you could say, which what a lot of people might assume once they hear what I just said about that, right? They wanted to leave that in there because they didn't care, right? They care about everything else, but they don't care about a white man saying the N-word, right? Number 2, since this man does have Tourette's, they wanted to leave this in there to show how serious it was, right? How serious Tourette's is. The man the man who played him, he got an award, you know, about his story, about his life, you know what I mean? All that good stuff. But then, if that's the case, you left that in there since it's important, right? That is an important issue. Tourette's is an important issue and topic, but so is the other stuff. That's important. That's an important issue. That's a topic. Whether you disagree or agree, right? Not saying I disagree or agree with whatever other people were saying, but those are important issues as well, right? Whether you disagree or agree with it, right? But for them, they decided to leave it out because obviously they didn't agree with it. The company or whoever, the organization, they didn't agree with that. But they decided to leave the N-word in. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't have the answers for you, bro. I'm not Sway.
You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers, Sway.
I'm not Sway. I don't have the answers, bro. It do get you to think. It do have you thinking. I'm not gonna lie. It gets you to thinking, right? All right. Here's a video of a woman talking about it. She's talking about it. Let's see what she got to say.
What if he would have yelled something different? That's all I want to know. Let's explore this option. If John Davidson, who is the man who is living with Tourette's, he deserved to be there, right? It's an awards show and there's a biopic about him. The movie I Swear is about him. In fact, the actor who played him won for Best Actor. So it's a very powerful, important film. He should be there. There's no questioning that. There should probably be some further conversation about, did the BAFTAs do enough to accommodate him like they should have, right? Were the correct actions taken ahead of time to try to prevent or at least lessen the risk of something like this happening? I don't know if that's possible, but I'm just asking. The BAFTAs are pre-recorded because they were scared to death that somebody was going to make a political statement. In fact, before it aired, they cut out the man who said Free Palestine. So they cut out Free Palestine, but they didn't cut out the man with Tourette's yelling the N-word from the crowd. I mean, and it was a quiet moment. And he yelled the N-word as Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were about to speak. They didn't cut that part out. So what I'm asking is, what if he had been the one that yelled Free Palestine? What if the gentleman with Tourette's had yelled something like, fuck the monarchy, or Trump's a twat? What if he would have yelled something else? I think it's probably pretty easy for them to say, well, you know, he lives with this disability, and this just shows us the importance of understanding this illness, that sometimes they are going to say things that are very uncomfortable and they can't help it. And there's an entire film here that's nominated because of the importance of this topic. So cutting that moment of the broadcast diminishes what we're here to talk about. And I can understand that that's going to be an argument from a lot of people. It is. It's a fair argument. And I'm quite certain that's probably what the BBC was originally thinking when they didn't cut it. Right? It wasn't until I think they started getting backlash that they were like, oh, yes, we must apologize because we didn't do this right. Okay, fine. But what if he had, with his uncontrollable tic, yelled something political?
She brought up some good points, man. What do y'all think about what she said, man? You know, Obviously, she's saying that, you know, the man has Tourette's. But who should we really be blaming? That's what I feel. Who should we really be blaming? You know what I'm saying?
So that man with Tourette syndrome didn't have a single outburst, tick, anything the entire night until Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo got on the stage. Then he shouted out the N-word with the hard ER. Okay, let's act like that's reasonable for a second. We're going to address that. We're going to come back to that. Why are we acting like black people should hear a racial slur against them and go on about their business like normal?
Well, to be fair, people did say that he was having certain outbursts. That's what they were saying.
This was obviously very important for Tourette syndrome as well. Tonight, John Davidson was there, and in the broadcast, you could hear him shouting quite a lot, and some words that people will have found offensive. But
yeah.
What would you say about that?
Well, first of all, they're ticks. He's ticking, and we have to understand that the way we perceive Tourette's is a joint responsibility. You know, it's not shouting obscenities. It's not being abusive. It is Tourette's and they're ticks. And so if it can lead to a deeper understanding of Tourette's syndrome and what ticks actually are, then I think if our movie is a part of that conversation, then that's a really incredible thing.
Now this is a black woman with Tourette's. Let's see what she got to say.
As a black woman with Tourette syndrome, I think I have valuable information to add to the discourse about the BAFTAs incident with John Davidson and Michael B. Jordan and Delroy. So I've made videos about this in the past. This comment is from a video that I made 3 years ago that is kind of active again because I talked about coprolalia, which is the tic in Tourette syndrome that causes people to say obscene things, socially inappropriate things, culturally inappropriate things. I've seen a lot of discourse, and I just kind of want to bring some education and shed some light. Some of, I guess, the top 3 things that I've repeatedly been seeing that I'd like to give my input about is, number 1, a lot of people are saying that it seemed like that was the only time that John Davidson ticked, right when it was silent and right when it was perfect for him to say the N-word. That was the only time he ticked. Obviously, I was not there to see if he ticked throughout the rest of the show or not, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's true. A lot of times, there might be motor tics that are going on, which is movement that we might not see because obviously the camera is elsewhere throughout the show. There might have been other vocal tics that he had said that were a bit more muffled. He might have gotten up and gone to the bathroom to let out a bunch of tics in the bathroom before coming back. I know I've done that, and I know a lot of my friends with Tourette syndrome have done that as well. So we don't necessarily know. And sitting there and assuming that that's the only time he ticked is also giving the impression that you're assuming that he did it on purpose, which brings me to my second point. A lot of people are saying they understand that Tourette syndrome is involuntary and he can't control it, but he shouldn't have said that. That's conflicting. You are now saying that you don't understand what involuntary and uncontrollable means because it's you cannot control it. Now, I completely understand the complexity and value of the situation of, John Davidson having this tick, and even though it was unintentional, involuntary, it's still being harmful. Obviously, the black women get it, especially in the times that we are in, politically and just in our world today. 100% understand that the intention doesn't mean that the harm or the hurt wasn't there. 100% understand that concept. Which is why I feel that we should be focusing on the BAFTA's editing team as to why that was kept. Because I learned that they are pre-recorded earlier in the day, and then they look at every single second and choose what to keep and what to cut out. And people have said that there were other statements, such as political statements that people voluntarily made that were cut out, yet they chose to take a moment that was probably incredibly embarrassing for the person with Tourette syndrome, and as everybody is agreeing, incredibly hurtful for Michael B. Jordan and Delroy, and probably shocking to everybody in the room, obviously, and said, we're going to keep that. Even though there was a pause before he ticked that, and a pause after he ticked that, between when Michael B. Jordan spoke and when Delroy spoke. That would have been perfect to just cut and edit there. But they chose to keep that in. That was intentional. That was voluntary. That was controllable. And so I feel all the comments on, where's his fault? It was intentional, but he needs to apologize, The editing team that chose to keep that in and say, let's actually broadcast that to everybody. Let's just show that pain and hurt that they experienced to everybody. Let's just show his most embarrassing moment to everybody.
Guys, go check out her full video. I ain't gonna lie, I had to speed it up. It was getting long. I ain't gonna lie. But she made some good points. Hopefully people really took that in and understood what she was saying. A black woman with Tourette's. Letting y'all know what's up in the business, all right? Look at the comments real quick, man. He should apologize. I think that's my only take. Yes, thank you so much. See, the black disabled community is often the shadows with topics like this. Yep. Exactly. She understands because she's a black person with Tourette's. So she know how Tourette's work, no matter the race, no matter the gender, whatever, right? Like I said, and like kind of like the lady was kind of bringing up, but the black girl right here, shout out to her, man. Go check out her page, man, for real. Jonelle Levine. Go check out her page, man. The main thing is they still decided to air this. That's the big thing. It's easy to point out this man because obviously he's white. He's at the N-word. Nobody want to hear that. Nobody's offending that. Nobody want to hear that, right? But it's so easy to point him out, of course. You can feel how you want, whether you agree or disagree, whether you think he was wrong, or you think, okay, he just got Tourette's. Y'all need to understand how Tourette's work. It don't matter. He's going to take all the blame, of course, but we're not blaming the people who put it out there. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't have been as big as it was if it was blurred out or censored out or anything. You know what I mean? There's people saying that he didn't apologize and all this stuff. He actually put out a statement. I wanted to thank BAFTA and everyone involved in the awards last night for their support and understanding and inviting me to attend the broadcast. Continue, Davidson. I appreciated the announcement to the auditorium in advance of the recording, warning everyone that my takes are involuntary and are not a reflection of my personal beliefs. I was heartened by the round of applause that followed the announcement and felt welcomed and understood in an environment that would normally be impossible for me. I was in attendance to celebrate the film of my life, I swear, which more than any film or TV documentary explains the origins, conditions, traits, and manifestations of Tourette syndrome. I have spent my life trying to support and empower the Tourette community and to teach empathy, kindness, and understanding from others, and I will continue to do so. I chose to leave the auditorium early into the ceremony as I was aware of the distress my tics were causing. Now, some people, still say, hey, he still didn't apologize. He just said he chose to leave, and he's aware that his tics was, making people uncomfortable. But we can't focus. We can't just focus on anything and everything. We got to let certain things go. You know what I'm saying? We can't just dwell on certain stuff. You know what I'm saying? And plus, it's kids and people in the world dying, man. We can't be focused on somebody, what they saying verbally when there's people losing their lives. You know what I mean? We got to focus on more important things. So with that being said, man, what y'all think, bro? What do y'all think? Leave comments down below. Leave your thoughts. Do you think he's racist? Do you think it's just Tourette? People need to calm down. I honestly want to know what y'all think in the comments, man. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're going to end it here, man. Click the notification bell, man, so you know when I post a video. Ultra Squad. We out.